tell me who you are and what you do here on the internet.
All right. That is, you said it was softball.
It is the softest of.
Yeah. Wow. That's the softest question. Okay. No, I'm kidding. Hey, everybody. My name is JJamJim. I am a variety streamer here on the interwebs, and I stream tons of different content from simulation, strategy, survival games. I do live stream Lego builds, which is how I met more and more originally. And I do kind of all sorts of different things. We do cooking streams once in a while in my kitchen. Yeah, we do all sorts of stuff. We're always goofing around, having fun. I doodle on stream. We're always just having a good time and lots of giggles. I like just having a wonderful atmosphere where people feel like they can be themselves and kind of have a place to release some tension and maybe not take themselves so seriously, because we do that way too much as adults. And so I like to have that atmosphere because I like to use that atmosphere to also sort of do the same kind of thing. So yeah,
absolutely.
That's who I am. That's what I do. And I've been, doing it for 7 years, since 2017.
That's incredible. And just before we started the recording, the fact that you mentioned it being 7 years, that's incredible. In terms of like shelf life of someone who makes content, 7 years is an amazing amount of time. I think most people don't even make it past 3 to 5, right? And so the fact that you're still here doing it in 7 years, let's quickly talk about how you got into it and how you got started around 7 years ago. What was that like?
Yeah, so I was, before I did this full time, I was running a video production company with two of my best buds. And we had been doing that right out of college. So we were shooting, short films, commercials, doing work in the advertising space. And that was all, good. It came with a lot of stresses. And kind of near the end of it, I started to really, really get burned out. And I really wasn't having fun anymore. In fact, kind of all of us were. It became a very ego-driven. It was just really challenging to constantly have to say, my work is good enough, you should hire me, and chase the money and just work with all of the ego that comes with working in advertising. And it became so little time spent actually making the stuff, actually making the content, being on set with crew. That was the best part, right? Like making it. And that time was so fleeting and it felt so out of my control. There were so many people who had to say yes for something to happen. And I was frankly really just getting sick of it. And so the last year that we were doing it was, we stopped the business in 2018. I started streaming in 2017 in the evenings because I had found, I actually started on YouTube first. I created the JJamJim, the Triple J logo I made in Photoshop, and I had been playing a game called City Skylines, which had just come out in 2015.
Nice.
And I bought myself a gaming laptop to play that because I had a MacBook for work, and that MacBook just did not work well enough. So I bought myself a gaming laptop, and then I started diving into like the world of YouTube Let's Plays, and I just discovered this like world I didn't really know existed. And I really hadn't gamed much since I was like a teenager at that point. So really gaming was not really a big part of my life. But I really got hooked on it, and I started diving into this, and then I started creating YouTube videos because my wife was sick of hearing me talk about my cities and I found myself, I was literally talking out loud to myself.
Right.
So I would sit at our kitchen table, or at our dining room table in our little apartment, and I would be gaming and I would be talking out loud. And then I started to tell her about these people making videos about this stuff. And she's like, well, why don't you do that? And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. That's like a whole thing. I'm gonna have to get a big, all this and that, and it's too much work.
Right.
And so eventually I had a really, really bad day. I got stood up at a business meeting that was supposed to be like that I was really hopeful for, and they just didn't show up and never emailed me back. And I was so fed up. I was so frustrated with just everything, feeling so out of control of my work. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it. So I went home, made the logo in Photoshop. It was my Reddit name, which is the reason I did it. I had no idea what it was going to become. It didn't even matter. I made the logo. I recorded a Let's Play video and I uploaded it to YouTube, and it felt so good to create something that was just, it wasn't precious. It was just something I can control, right? It was out there. It was in the world. I didn't care if it was good. It just was, it was like this release, kind of like this creative release almost.
Yeah.
And it became addicting quickly. So I was releasing multiple videos a day for a while.
Wow.
Just as much as possible. So I did that. That was in April of 2017. Then I got married in May of that year. And then, it was about October that I started streaming because I had found Twitch and I was kind of dabbling in that. And I was like, maybe I should do that. And I streamed without a camera. I was using a microphone that was given to me, and I was on my gaming laptop in essentially a large closet. And it was on a very rickety table, and I had a secondary monitor stacked on old books. I didn't even have a webcam, and because I didn't think I was going to actually use a webcam. I was like, nah, I don't need one.
Yeah.
And then pretty quickly I was like, no, I need one because I express way too much to not have a webcam. So, and honestly, Otherworld was there early on. I mean, Otherworld's been, I think 78 months of resubs in my channel.
Yeah.
I think
that's incredible to have folks still around like in that time. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. So I started streaming in the evenings when I'd come home from work, and that honestly like helped a lot. It was a decompression. It actually helped my day job a lot better.
Right.
So that got better. The career path I was on, I was just finding less and less joy in. And eventually the three of us were like, you know what? We're not having fun. We're not making money. So why are we doing this? You know, you gotta, if you're going to run your own business, you gotta have at least doing one of those things. Yeah. So we called it quits. We're still really good friends, which is the most important part of that. And when we got done with that, my wife and I sat down and she was like, so now what? And I was like, well, she actually brought it up. She said, do you want to live stream? Do you want to try it full time and see where it goes? And I said, yeah, I think I can do it. And she's like, okay. So we kind of took that first 6 months or so and kind of looked at the metrics and, made sure things were trending, and I created a better schedule, and I did a whole, all that kind of stuff. And 7 years later, now I'm here.
That's incredible.
I couldn't have done it without her support. So,
right.
Yeah.
Having a partner who really wants to support your goals and your whole, streaming and content creation, it's a very, it's a hard space to get started in. And, the potential for growth is very small, and so to have a partner who is glad to support that effort is incredible. So,
especially since she didn't understand it at all.
Right.
She knew I found joy in it.
Yeah.
But it was a very like what is the, it's hard to explain to anybody, especially in 2017. What does that mean? How do you make money? What do you're playing video games and you're, okay, so you're just lazy? Like what
Right.
what's the deal with this? That was a challenge at first. So,
yeah.
And
here you are.
Yeah.
Here you are 7 years
later.
later.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You said early on that just even making the Let's Plays was addicting and that you were releasing videos multiple times a day. What specifically about that just really felt right for you? What did it for you specifically?
Yeah, it really was about full creative control. Like, I'm not putting out anything into the world because I came from this world of, this edit has to be perfect, right? We're cutting frames, you're creating this thing that's going to, go on television, or it's going to be viewed by people, and there's a lot of money behind it, and there's a lot of pressure, and all these people worked on it, and so many of them want to put it on their reels so that they can use it. And it was just like this precious thing. And this was the opposite of that. Yeah. This was quick. I'm playing a game. I'm getting to just be entertaining. I'm getting to just talk through it. Like, it was therapeutic.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really care at the time too much about what happened to it. Right. Like, it, honestly, I mean, I told 0 people when I started streaming. My wife was the only person on this planet who knew I was doing live streaming for probably the first 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 months. I just didn't tell anybody because I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to explain it. And I didn't tell anybody. And so I was more than happy at the time to be streaming to like the couple people who would like pop in and talk.
Yeah.
Because it was just joyful. It was just, it was something that wasn't precious, and it was something that I could control completely.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the big part of it, was that concept of, I can't control who's coming in and out, but I can control what I'm playing, when I'm doing it, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
now that feeling of control of where you're at, when you make this content, how has that evolved over the last 7 years?
Yeah. I think, once it kind of became more of a, once it was framed more as like something that I was trying to pursue, as a like job or career.
Yeah.
That obviously changed a little bit, right? But at the same time, I was so used to it. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a business that I was running, and I knew how to do that. I knew how to be a business owner. I knew I had to save money for taxes at the end of the year.
Right.
I knew, I understood marketing, branding, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I had worked in that space. We have been doing it for our own business. And so like all of that stuff wasn't the challenge. It was just understanding the industry that I was in and how to navigate it.
Right.
And that became sort of like how do I fit in here? And what does this mean? And so some of that control kind of drifted away because ultimately the people who show up, there is only so much you can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's evolved, as it's gone. But really, it truly was just the joy that I had for it. Mm-hmm. And it felt like something, and I've said this before on stream to my community, that it really does. It did feel like something I was meant to do.
Yeah.
Like it, I was such a little camera ham when I was growing up. Yeah. Like my mom has like home videos of me just like being a goofball in front of the camera. and I love entertaining people with jokes. Even whether it's in the room or on stream, I find there's like a natural high I get when I stream. I like being that entertaining person.
Yeah.
Whether it's real life or whatever. I mean, this is all real life, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. In person
and
or on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I enjoyed getting to make weird voices and I don't know, do all this kind of stuff. So it felt like, wow, I'm actually using some of that stuff that I find inherently joyful, and it can also maybe be meaningful.
Yeah. Has that feeling changed since you started, or are you still feeling just as like excited and rewarded as you have since you began?
I'm going to be honest, it has not changed. Like I have this conversation with my wife all the time, because it honestly has almost gotten more, because as I've gotten to foster a community and, just be a part of people's lives. Like I have people whose kids they've had children since they've started watching me. Right. And now those kids are like 4 or 5 years old. And they watch with their kids now on the TV. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's really just expanded more.
It's grown.
And that feeling has not gone away. Yeah. And so, and I've done a lot over the years to protect that. And I feel like pretty early on, I knew I needed to continue to protect that, because I didn't want that feeling to go away.
Yeah. How have you protected it? What have you done?
Well, early on, so when I started streaming, I was doing a lot of City Skylines, and I was also playing another game called RimWorld. Those were kind of like my 2 main games.
Yeah.
But the viewership came from Skylines. That was where I was getting most of the viewership. Mm-hmm. And my viewership would probably be cut in half or more when I would play RimWorld. But I knew very early on, just knowing myself, that there's no way I could be a 1-game streamer.
Right.
Just no shot. I knew I would burn out. I knew it just was not something I could do.
Yeah.
There's, I enjoy playing a game for a while and having that consistency, but I have to be able to move on. And so I feel like I struggled with growth early on because of that, right? Like variety is just challenging. Like I didn't main a single game really. I had games that I played more, but that was one of the things I did to protect it. Always making sure that I was maintaining a happiness in what I was doing. Because, the reality is that chat can see when you're not having fun.
Absolutely.
I've been in streams where people are like, they just look dead inside with what they're playing.
Yeah.
And that's just no one's having fun, right? Yeah. People want to see other people having fun. They want to see people doing things they're good at. That's why we watch athletes, right? Like athletes are doing, are performers. That's why we go to rock concerts, right? Like it's seeing people at their most joy doing something they love, right? That's why we watch. And so, I had to maintain that joy. And I've been very honest. Like I've started games where I thought I was going to enjoy it, and I was like, guys, I'm out. I'm not having fun.
Right.
Not feeling this game, and I'm not going to play it anymore. And like there are people who came just for that, but the goal is always to have people come and want to hang out with the community. And I just become that person in the background. Yeah. I always used to compare it to being a bartender, which I also used to do in college.
There you go.
But it very much is that way, right? You walk in, if you're the only person in a bar, you're going to talk to the bartender, right? And then as more people start filtering in, it starts to become more fun. Then some people have side conversations. They're having side conversations over here and over there. And then eventually the bartender is just the guy, or gal in the back, just, making sure everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how I explained it to my parents the first time, because they had no idea why anyone would watch someone play video games on the internet.
When you explain, when you explain streaming to people, is the bartender analogy the go-to, or do you have other ways of describing what it means to make content and be a streamer?
Yeah, it is. It is. I still do use that. I feel like it's actually kind of crazy. Like less and less I've been like having to explain it.
Yeah. Like
it feels like over the years, the amount of people who I have to explain what Twitch is has gone down.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently. Like, because for a while, if we would just like meet someone on the street, or we would, or like we'd run into people and start talking, but they were kind of, maybe people we didn't know very well. I would still be like, oh, I work in video production. Yeah.
Leave it at that.
I would still say that, because I was like, I'm not going to explain to these random people who I'm probably not going to see again what Twitch is. Then it's going to open up this whole thing of worms, and I'm just not interested in doing that.
Yeah.
But now I don't. I haven't done that. I usually be like, oh, I live stream on Twitch, and some people are like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, or wow, cool. And I've gotten less confused faces. I still get them once in a while.
Fair.
But yeah, I'll use that bartender analogy once in a while still.
Yeah. It's a good one. It's a good one. And actually, I think
it is.
Personally, I haven't heard the bartender one myself, but I think that is a perfect comparison for what we do here. So I might start using that one.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Do it.
We talked a little bit about how you're protecting your joy and making sure you're still enjoying it. And you mentioned, previously before all this, that you start to feel burnout in your job and your business that you owned. What kind of things would you tell someone that's creating content or trying to do this thing who might be feeling burnt out or starting to think that they're not as happy doing this? What advice would you tell or give them?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, that was a very high time where I had a lot of people coming in. Obviously the viewership went up. Everybody was home, right? We were all stuck at home, and so people were getting laid off of their jobs. And so I was getting a lot of people coming in and asking me and talking to me about, hey, I'm thinking about starting live streaming to make a few bucks on the side while I'm laid off my job. Or, people coming in and be like, oh yeah, I bought all this equipment and I'm going to start doing this. And, what tips do you have? Or, hey, I'm a really small streamer. That was the height of that. It was several times a day for a long time. Or I would even start getting DMs from people asking me questions. And inevitably, I would tell everybody the same thing is this is not something you should try to do to become rich and famous. This is not a career path that is going to be incredibly financially stable. It is for the 1% of the 1% who stream on this platform.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I have been incredibly blessed with an incredibly generous community. And I feel very, very grateful for that over the years. But, but still, like, if I didn't have my wife as a support partner, we have set up our lives where we have different sort of baskets that we put in toward our life expenses, right? My wife works. I have this. We kind of pool funds, some side hustles here and there, and then it all gets pulled into a big pool, right? And then that's how we live. Mm-hmm. And that was how we wanted to set up our life, not to have something, be a single income or whatever.
Yeah.
But if I was doing this on my own, I mean, I barely afford, a decent apartment to live in. Like, it's hard. It's very challenging. And the people who do it without support staff and can do this full time, I applaud them because it's not easy. But I guess what I always tell people is you have to start with love first. You have to truly enjoy this. I feel very grateful that I started it with that. Because I was happy at the time when I started streaming to nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really matter at the time. Like I was so starved for something else creatively that it was so new and exciting. It was starting something new, and I loved it, and I just enjoyed doing it. And you have to start with that, because that is the only sustainable way you're going to get through it, because it's hard. It's challenging. There is so much, the amount of people that I have seen over the years, just disappear from the platform. I mean, I can't even count how many people have either sent me messages or used to hang around the stream, or I used to hang around their streams who aren't there anymore. And there's a million different reasons for that, I'm sure. Some people just get sick of it. It's fine. But you really have to approach it, I think, as a joyful hobby first. Like the person who came in and said, I want to make a few bucks while I'm laid off. I straight up told that person, I go, I can understand that. And I'm sure you're in a position, but you really have to figure out if you like it first.
Yeah.
Because the earning potential is low in general. It just is. And, or I would have people come in, and I had this one guy, he came in for probably like 4 months. Every week he'd pop in, he'd say, I'm going to start streaming. He would totally shamelessly self-promote himself. But he's like, I'm gonna start streaming. I just picked up this microphone. It's really high end. I just picked up this big rig. Like, he was telling me all about all this stuff. He would send me DMs. He'd send me like pictures of his setup and ask me what I thought. And it was a beautiful setup. He had a lot of cool stuff. But he hadn't streamed for a minute. The guy hadn't streamed for a minute, right? Yeah. Like, he has no idea, right? And so I used to use the analogy of, like, I could buy a $20,000 set of golf clubs, and then I'd go out and just hit, pull chunks out of the grass. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make you, it's nice. Like, it's good to have good audio. It's good to have good video. There is somewhat of a factor. Not everybody's meant to be a live streamer. There's elements to it that some people probably have, some people don't. But the reality is like, you have to love it first. You have to figure out if you enjoy it. And the crazy thing is, that guy never ended up streaming.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, please say that he... Nope, never?
Never saw him again after that. So...
Oh, man.
I'm assuming he probably got his job back. Sure. Post-pandemic, which is great. Like, I'm glad that he's okay. But he was going about it in a way that I understand, right? We all create these false first steps, right? Yeah. If I get the best running shoes, then I'll go out running, right?
Yeah.
And you just have to kind of start. You got to take one step and then see if you like it, and then if it feels good, take another step.
Yeah. That's an incredible story, because I definitely have seen that exact, like, it's almost textbook in terms of, like, seeing that person who really wants to stream. They say they're going to stream. They go out and get all this stuff. They talk about it a bunch. They get all the gear, and then nothing happens, or they're just they just don't do it. And man, and I appreciate
that's not even unique to live streaming. I mean, that's
many
people will be like, I'm gonna paint,
things.
right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
they decide, oh, I want to do this thing, and then they get all the stuff, and then they just don't do it. And frankly, I do feel like that's so common with most things, activities, hobbies, things like that, or side hustles, depend however you want to approach it. But streaming tends to be one of those things where, man, you can drop a ton of money and not do anything with that gear, or maybe do it once and then you realize, I hate it, or it's not your jam. And that's the thing that is always heartbreaking. I've also experienced those community chatters who are just like, oh yeah, I can't wait to stream and make money. And it's like, so let
me tell you something.
I think I laughed a bit when you said that, because I've had a couple of those stories, but I remember one time just literally stopping a stream and going, whoa. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about this, because it's so little. Like Brian out there is asking if we're even supposed to make money. Good question.
Yep.
Yeah. Money?
Say what?
Say what? Yeah.
You know, but even outside of the money is there. I've had so many people quit doing this because they just for example, like I had someone who was a streamer friend who pretty much mained one game. They were maining City Skylines. And their numbers were great, and they got partnered, and all this stuff was great, but they just got super burned out with the game and decided to just go in a different direction, just to stream something else.
How'd that go for them?
And their viewership, tanked 80-90% when they switched. And mentally, that's really hard to swallow. Because and they literally said, oh, so people don't like me. They just enjoyed the game. And it's hard to not look at it that way, right? It's hard to not feel like, because you are the one doing it. You're the one putting all this forward. It's your face, it's your voice out there. And they pretty much just stopped streaming. It was too much. And so it's like that mental toll of not only thinking about that sort of thing, but then you have this entire platform of all these other people doing the exact same thing that you're trying to do, that you get to compare yourself to. Right? I mean, comparison is, there's a saying in there. Comparison is like,
comparison is a thief of joy.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And it's true. And it's so hard to do. And we do it all the time as humans. But it is hard, right? You start to look at, well, this person started 2 months after me and they have this many more followers than I do. And wow, their sub count is way higher than mine, it's just really hard not to do that. But the reality is, and what I find, because I've had those conversations with other people too, other creators, and is that everybody's journey on this platform is so massively different because the variables are just way too much to count, right? It's timing. It's everything. It's literally everything. It's what you look like, what you sound like, what time you're streaming, what games you're playing, which people decided to hop on and, drop that $20 donation to you that you weren't seeing coming, that inspired you to do all this, and like the steps to it, right? Who rated you? Who did you know who was streaming if you didn't know anybody? Like there's just so many variables that go into it that it's hard to, you really can't compare people or yourself to others, because it's such a, there's so much randomness to the whole thing.
Yeah.
That
so
is
many
hard to quantify.
Right? Yeah.
There's so many factors. Everybody's always like, well, people would be like, well, I I made this schedule and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like you're doing all the right things. I don't know what, like sometimes there's just, I don't know, man. And that's, I think, part of the frustrating part of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do when you start comparing yourself to others? How do you get out of that?
Oh, I go back to, it was harder. It used to be harder. And it's slowly gotten better.
Yeah.
I do my best to not feel what I do is I try to find gratitude in what I have.
Right.
And what I'm working toward, and that I feel good about it. And if I was to change what I'm doing, like let's say I'm comparing myself to someone who streams, 7 days a week for 8 hours a day, and their sub count is, 300 higher than mine.
Right.
Well, the reality of my life is that 2 days a week, 2 days a week, I am fully taking care of my daughter. My wife and I do not have daycare for our daughter, so we take care of her full time. She is in charge of her while I'm streaming, and I watch her on her work days. And so the reality is right now I'm streaming 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I have a chunk of time. I have a window that works, and it's enjoyable, and that works for our life. And I have, it's been challenging. I used to do 5 days a week. That's been a challenge for me to change for that. But at the same time, there are things that I would like to do, but you have to be realistic about your time. You have to be realistic about your mental capacity. Mm-hmm. And you have to always find that gratitude in what you're doing and know that you're doing what you can. And, the comparison is not going to do any of that for you. The comparison is just going to make you feel like you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
And at some point you have to be okay with doing what you can, otherwise you'll drive yourself nuts. And I say that sounding like I have all this wisdom and I never, but no, we all do it. It's, we all do it. There's times where I go up, talk to my wife, and I'm like, I feel like I've lately I've been feeling like I've been falling behind, and from my other creator friends who I feel like are doing more, and it's just like at some point you have to be like, you can only do what you can do,
Yeah.
Like
there's only so much, right? There's only so much.
You only have so much to give.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's different.
And if you pivot and choose to give more, what are you sacrificing? Right? And are you going to find more joy that way?
Yeah.
Because I could stretch myself super thin. I mean, I already feel like I stretch myself thin sometimes, but you could stretch yourself more thin, and then now nothing is joyful. Yeah. None of the things you're doing are getting enough of your attention. So now you're not doing any of those things well, right? Instead of doing the things that you can do and try to do that with everything you have,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate you talking about like the balance that's required here, especially like when it comes to content creation like this. It can easily eat up all of your time. Easily. Like you can spend time just streaming, or you can spend time editing videos or what have you. I'm sure there's a long list of things that you have that you're like, oh, if I had more time, this is what I would do. And I think we're all like that. And this particular act of creating makes it really difficult to not just walk away, right? Like if you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like there's never I've spoken to so many creators at this point. Those of us who do this and love doing it, especially, we're like, would spend all day if we could, right? Doing this. Yeah, easily.
I mean, and the being live, that I struggled with that very early on. Was I could be live right now, right?
This is content.
Why am I not live right now?
Yeah.
I could be getting in front of eyeballs of some people who I might not, just that was hard early on. And it's funny to look back on that now because I don't think that way anymore.
Yeah.
At all. But early on, like, you're seeing it, it's fresh. You're like, oh my gosh, all these people are live and they're doing it. They're growing their channels. They're growing their communities right now. I could be doing that right now. Why did I hop off?
Yeah.
But you can't.
Yeah.
That's how burnout happens. So.
Yeah. I think many struggle with that too, especially those who are diving headfirst into it and do find some joy and love for it. They will do so wholeheartedly to their own detriment at some point, right? What would you say to someone who doesn't know how to balance those scales, or who doesn't know how to scale it back some, but they know they should?
Yeah, I mean, I think it stems from, again, I think it's a product of what are you streaming for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you streaming because you're enjoying talking to a couple people when you have some free time? You're over a game, or maybe you create art, or whatever. Or are you trying to build it and make it into something? Because those answers are different.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to the challenge of that becomes so much more difficult and nuanced when you're like, I want to be a live streamer. I want to earn a living being a live streamer. That puts so much pressure on yourself over so many things that you don't have control over. And I feel like you chase the joy. It honestly is one of those things. And I do this, I've done this. So I over the past 2 years, I started a Lego channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was so good because I was doing the gaming channel for such a long time, and the gaming channel was becoming not fun anymore. Quite honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I was finding that if I wanted to have success in the space, that I was going to have to do a lot more like tutorial, heavily edited, higher like scripted stuff in order to really like get views. And I really just didn't want to do that. Like, right. I didn't have time. I didn't have energy to do that.
And it's probably not what you were wanting to do with your time.
It was not what I was wanting to do with my time. I honestly, I didn't really even have it at that point.
Yeah.
And the Lego hobby has been awesome because it's just been, I've approached that channel. I actually just talked about this in my latest video, how I started, like, I told myself, I'm going to do this. This has to be low key. It has to make sense for me. It has to be something that I continuously want to do. And when something doesn't feel good, or something feels like it's too much strain or too much effort or work for what I want out of it, I have to step back. So when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm going to do like, I got a box of, I ordered some Lego, and so I had this box and there was some like GWPs in it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll do an unboxing video. I'll do like a Lego haul. Right. And I made that video. I think I made maybe a couple of them. And I was like, I didn't enjoy making that.
That wasn't fun.
And that's not interesting. There's so many people who do these videos.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't anything that's, I didn't find it interesting to watch. And I didn't enjoy it. So I was like, I'm not going to really do those anymore. Maybe I'll do one if it really,
if it feels like the right,
if it feels right. Like the right thing.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm only going to really chase making the stuff that I enjoy watching myself.
Yeah.
And while, not all of the videos that I make are, the ones that are going to get all the views, they are ones I enjoy making.
Yeah.
And I hope that my hope is always that my enthusiasm and my passion for something comes through rather than me trying to make it into something that is not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I try to chase virality, think about all the Lego creators who are making such incredible content for reviews and one, I'm not getting sets early, and two, I'd have to have like a whole light box set up, and I don't have I don't have space for that.
Yeah.
I literally could not do it better, and I wouldn't have a different take on it. Yeah. And that was kind of where I felt like I was getting burned out with the video gaming stuff. Was where I'm playing this game, and yes, I'm putting my thoughts and stuff on it, but it doesn't feel really any different than what someone else is doing. And so I'm making my Lego videos as this is my Lego journey, and I'm just taking people along, and there's going to be I'm going to talk about the things that I enjoy and the things that excite me, and I hope people find that enjoying, I have to do it in a way that feels good. And I think that is somewhat of I go back and forth on it because I've been doing this for a long, long time. Part of me is like, is that a product of where I'm at? Or is that a privilege that I have to feel that way? Or is it just sort of like where I've settled to in my content journey? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really interesting. It sounds like you're wondering like how
I am wondering.
Yeah, you're wondering like why am I what is, like you said, is this a product of any one of these things that are currently happening or has brought me to this point? Or am I legitimately still in that mental space that brought me here? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think before my daughter was born, there was a time where I feel like I would come up and I would talk to my wife about the stream. She'd ask me, how's stream today? Right. Yeah. And I would go, yeah, it's fine, and I just would have this, like, even though I had wonderful conversations, even though I enjoyed my time there, afterward, I would immediately go to the negative of, well, I could have done more. Well, I wish I would have done this. Like, I found myself during stream even thinking about, wow, I really need to do this, or I bet if I did this would make this better or whatever. And I wasn't like, there was a period of time where I felt like I wasn't enjoying the moment of being there.
Right.
Right. And that was affecting stream. I mean, that was affecting my mood on stream. Yeah. And so that's not helping anybody. Like, that's not actually going to help me grow.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, again, it comes back to like, you have to have the joy. And so I have kind of fallen into this thing where I am going to chase what makes sense for me, what works, and I'm going to eliminate the stuff that doesn't, not because it wouldn't be nice, but because it's realistic for where I'm at. And I just hope that doesn't mean that everything comes crashing down and,
Yeah, because there's probably
I'll literally have nightmares.
Yeah.
I'll literally have nightmares where I go live and no one shows up. I still have that dream.
Even after all this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not all the time. Less probably.
Yeah.
But, once every few months or something.
Yeah.
You get this thing where everyone's forgotten,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Is it a worry that you have lost relevance, or is it a worry that people just won't care?
It's a fear that I'm just not interesting anymore. It's boring.
Right.
Like, who cares? Who cares? Yeah, okay. This guy goes live and it's boring now.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Or I don't need to show up. He's, whatever. Yeah. That kind of makes me think about like the whole concept of like partner push, and partner slump that people experience.
Yeah.
Which is real. And because I think so when I was close to that milestone, I knew I didn't want to do a partner push because I didn't want to create this like false hype. What I mean by that is I think what ends up happening, and of course, this is with the caveat, everybody should do whatever is best for their channel, whatever they feel is best, right? Like, all I can speak to is my own, whatever. My feeling is that if you do a partner push, you're creating this hype that your community should come and support you, and maybe those few people who normally don't watch on this day will be like, well, I really want them to get partners, so I'm going to pull them up on another screen and whatever. And what ends up happening is you hit that milestone, yay, everybody's happy, and then, then all of a sudden your average dips, and now you feel like, oh, but I did that, right? I literally had a conversation. I had sort of this guy I knew had gotten partnered on a specific game, and then he decided to switch games after he got partnered because he really thought that I can do whatever I want now, right? Got the check mark,
right?
And I told him, I was like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, you still have to stream tomorrow. No one's paying you now that you have that magical little check mark.
Yeah.
And his viewership dipped to about he said, I'm thinking about quitting streaming because I'm sick of shutting the stream off and seeing 40 instead of, I'm partnered and my viewership, my average used to be a lot higher. Yeah. And now I'm just seeing 40s when I end stream. And I told him, I was like, listen, you are looking at this the wrong way. That means that there's 40 people who will come to your stream no matter what, because you're playing a completely different genre of game.
Yeah.
That means you have 40 core people, at least 40, who are showing up to your stream no matter what. That is massive. And you know how many people would appreciate that 40. That is hard to work towards, man. You get stuck at different times. That is an incredible thing. And I tried to show him that, and I don't think it worked. He still streams once in a while now, but much less preciously than he used to. But he really just, you get caught up in that that idea of it, and you have to really try to always look at it from, those people aren't. I don't know. That 40 is, I don't know. I've also, sorry, I'm just going on these tangents now.
No, you're fine.
There was another person I knew who was trying to get, she was trying to get partnered in a year. She started streaming and she wanted to get partnered within 1 year. Which is, that's a goal for sure. I mean,
yeah.
It was sort of became like an experiment for her. She didn't get it. she actually got very close, really close. Like, it was incredible. The growth was honestly amazing. And just stopped. Just stopped after not getting it. And
Wow.
came back several months later, but had lost everyone because I had a few people send me messages who I had, gotten to know through them, who was like, we all felt abandoned. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't matter, like, we all showed up for a year. You got this close, but the community you were building didn't matter. It was just, we were all just these numbers to you.
Yeah.
And so, like, most of those people never ended up coming back. And I was like, man, that really underscored the value of each individual viewer that you have and contributor to the chat room, and whatever it may be, whether people are subscribing to the channel or gifting bits or subs or whatever, or the people chatting or the people just lurking. You have to have gratitude for that, because people could be doing anything else. Like, they're sitting here with you on the internet.
Took the time.
Content there is out there. There's all these shows and podcasts.
They can do anything.
Like, anything else. But they are choosing to be here to, like, have this conversation with you. And that's mine. It's still, even after this long of time, is still, like, mind blowing to me.
That's wild too. And in a way, it's really heartbreaking, actually, when you think about it, because like those are people who came out, and for whatever reason, they spent the time there. Either they just wanted to support the push, or they just want to support the streamer, or they sincerely enjoyed, the time there, whatever it might be. And then, in a way, you just ghost all those people.
Yeah.
And man.
Well, and all that effort, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like, to just throw away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's wild.
I think gratitude is a huge thing, not only in just life in general. It helps center you a little bit, but it also helps create a better perspective. And I think it's really important in live streaming as well, because there is so much so much of a personal nature to it, Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely makes it very clear that sometimes on the creator side, creators just forget, like, every person, every number is a person, right? Whether you're streaming, to use your example, whether you're streaming to 40 people or more, or 4 people, like, those are people who take the time to check out what you're doing and stay or come back or check in on you. And it's wild that in both those stories, right? Like, the first story of the streamer who got burnt out and being disappointed that they weren't doing better than 40, and then this other person, who was pushing so hard to get partner in that time, and then just kind of stopped. It's wild. I think creators forget that there's another person on that side of the screen. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think, what ends up making that, it's when you get those, like, DMs or someone says, like, hey, you made my day better today. And it's like, those are those moments that kind of stuff hits.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I didn't even know you, sometimes you don't even know those people are even in chat.
Yeah.
Because maybe they're not saying anything. But there's people watching who aren't talking, who need a little boost, right? And it's all ripples in a pond, man. Like, that's why, and it sounds, it's cliched, but it's like, you're making someone's day better. But if I can showing some kindness, showing some, giving someone a laugh that maybe they really, really needed, their day is going to be better, and they're going to affect other people better because of that, right?
Yeah.
More love in the world is better than anything else.
Yeah.
And I take that very seriously in doing this, because I've gotten messages from people. I've had people say, I was thinking about, I had someone message me fairly early on saying, finding your channel helped me not take a drink after being sober for 8 years.
Wow.
I was at a low point, and, I needed that. And so thank you. And it's like, whoa.
Powerful, right?
What?
Yeah.
Like that's, and that stuff happens, I think, a lot.
It happens more than we all think.
Way more than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our reach is incredible.
Right.
And we don't know it.
And that's, it's truly, I don't know. I think there's so much value to that. And that makes me even like that part of it. I never really thought about when I started streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And, but then like once that community building and that stuff started to like pop up more, I was like, wow, this is not just about someone playing video games on the internet. This can have a meaningful impact in someone's day or someone's whatever. And yeah, I don't know. We just need more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I took a break at one point due to just life getting incredibly busy, and something had to go, right? And I needed to take a break from Twitch, and I did a stream, and I even said that to my community. I posted in my Discord. I did my best to communicate it to whoever, would need to hear it. And like you, I got many messages of, hey, thanks for doing, thanks for streaming. I really appreciate you. Help me through late nights or whatever. Right. Or hey, I really love loved your stupid jokes during your gaming sessions or whatever. It was really cool. Hope your break goes well, or like, or even like a week or weeks and months later when a person just didn't know because they didn't see the message or see the VOD that, hey, I haven't seen you online in like a month. Is everything cool? Really miss your streams, right?
Yeah.
That for me very much really like clicked in that idea of no matter what you do as a creator, there's so many more people than you think that you're reaching. And like you said, like they could be lurking, or they just don't say anything, or they just don't make a point to really, communicate it, because, a lot of people just throw up a stream and they like to listen and they'll go back all the time. But and I love that we're pointing this out right now, because I think those of you who are out there and you do this and you're like, is this making a difference? Is this making an impact? Or like, do people even give a crap? I assure you, if you've been doing this long enough and you've had any form of people stop in and stop by, yes.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Right. Yep. Yeah. And there's always going to be people who are like, well, I stream for this. This is why I stream. I don't stream for that.
Right.
Okay. I mean, there's something for everybody on this platform.
Yeah.
If you want, there's like super toxic stuff. If you want super toxic stuff, there's super wholesome stuff. There's wholesome stuff that might have a toxic undertone. Like there's everything.
Some combination.
There's everything. There's a combination. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's people who pretend to be other people. And I mean, there's literally everything anyone wants on this platform. It's really what you want to get out of it.
Yeah.
But I think what's so cool is that you get to run your channel the way you want to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And everybody has a little bit of a different reason why they do it. But it's that's why I do it. That's why I continue to enjoy it. And but you just have to finding your why is really important.
Yeah.
You know, because if you just sort of mindlessly hit go live and you're not really sure what you're getting out of it or what you think other people are getting out of it, those are times for reflection of like, well, what do I want out of this? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, some incredible insight from you tonight. I've really just enjoyed all of this. I do have a question that I do want to circle around back to. Aussie Wheels in the chat asks, how as a new streamer, how do you deal with no one talking to you or no one chatting? What would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that is the key to creating. We've all probably been in streams where either someone has lower viewership or maybe they're super into the game or they're super into what they're doing and they're not talking.
Yeah.
They're not even talking about what they're doing in the game. They're not chatting. And guess what? The chat is also dead. If you're not going to talk, chat's not going to talk. Like, that's just the way it is, whether you have 100 people or not. The reality is that you should. I personally, I've gone back and forth on this over the years. You cannot, if it's important for you to look at the numbers that you have while you're streaming, fine. But I would generally say stay away from ever looking at how many people are watching you when you're streaming.
Yeah.
Because it should not matter.
Yeah.
If you have 3 people or you have 3,000, you should be the same person. You shouldn't get more energy because you have 3,000 people. You shouldn't get less energy because you only have 3. Because the reality is that those 3 people are still choosing to show up. So you shouldn't, it's kind of like, you could compare it to like a comedy show, right? Am I going to take out my best jokes because there's only 3 people in the audience? No, you should give them the show. The show must go on, right?
Right. Regardless.
Regardless. Yeah. And so I, for me early on, I talk a lot. So it was very easy for me to kind of just talk through what I was doing in the game. But if you're not having a conversation with someone else, just say what's in your head. Talk about what you're doing in the game. That's I found to be the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Like, should I do this? Ask yourself questions, because maybe someone will want to answer it, right? Like, be like, is this the right thing to do? Should I be doing this? Or however it has to be, right? Find a way to create conversation. Or, man, sometimes even when maybe there's a lot of people chatting, I'll still be like, you guys ever wondered why, and just like something that just pops into my head.
Yeah.
And just spout it.
Yeah.
Because you never know where that conversation will bring. You never know who might bring someone out of lurk to say something. But also don't get discouraged if that doesn't happen, because there probably are people who are just wanting to lurk. And that's fine. I've been in streams where and I understand the idea, but it does not work. But I understand what they're trying to do, and I felt bad for them. But I went into someone's stream who had only a few viewers, and they were clearly looking at who was in the channel, was watching the viewer list, and they said, "Hey, Jim."
They called you out by name,
and I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh no!" Like, "Oh no, you can't." No,
man, I have this story for you because I think you would appreciate this. I tell this story on the stream like at least once every 6 months. I tell this story, but I was in a channel checking out a game, found a streamer who had maybe like 5 or 6 people in there, like 1 or 2 people chatting. And so I'm just hanging out, I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm just checking out the game, I'm listening to their commentary. And they decide to take a break and they're like, hey, I just want to stop and I want to thank all of you for being here. And so they stop and they go down like the list of chatters. And they start with, of course, the people who have been talking.
Okay.
Thank you, so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. And then they start reading off other names that they see in the chat. One of which is like, you know which names are like the bots that are in every chat. They start reading off those names.
Oh, no.
And then they get to more and more. And they're like, more and more. Thank you. I've never seen your name in here before. Thank you. And then like they continue down, you know, the 1 or 2 other people on the list. And I'm like, oh, no, what do I? Oh, man. And so I was like, they're clearly newer. They're clearly inexperienced, and I just want to help them because that's who I am. So I just quietly in a whisper, I type, hey, you know, some people just like to lurk and hang out and not necessary to call them out by name. You know, it's cool. And I was like, that's it, right? You see in the moment when he gets my whisper on his face and he goes, more, just sent me a message.
No way.
And he reads it out loud. He reads out my message. And then he does the thing. He does the thing.
That.
No.
You dreamt that.
He does the thing where like, cause he had gone back to his game screen where his camera was smaller. He goes back to the full screen and just goes, well, more. I'd love to thank my viewers here. And I think it's very important to thank all of the people who are in my chat. So, thanks for that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had left a moment later, but you had just reminded me of that story. I tell it from time to time to the chat, but called every person out in the chat by name.
I mean, that is a strategy. It is definitely a strategy.
Yeah.
There's no denying it.
Oh, yeah.
It is a strategy.
Love your viewers, man.
Listen. Man, and I understand. I understand it from the perspective of I want to grow and be appreciative of all the people.
Yeah.
Yes. That is understandable.
Yeah.
But there is also like you have to understand the nature of what we're doing, what it is here, right?
Yeah.
Because it is inevitably and it is ultimately anonymous. Yeah. Like we have screen names. It is an anonymous place to view content for free. Right? Like I mean that's what it is. You can hide behind your screen. I mean, I stopped 3-4 years ago. I stopped doing I started doing anonymous follows for that reason, because I was finding that I would like to go into people's channels and maybe follow anonymously, or I would like
quietly do it later.
Offline.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Same.
And so I created that, and there are some people who are like, well, you didn't thank me for my follow. but a lot of times I will thank, like, let's say someone follows and I'll say, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome on in. And then if they say something in chat, I will either thank them for the follow, or if they were talking before, then they follow afterwards, I'll say, hey, thanks for the follow, right? Because that means, by stepping into the chat room, you've and having a conversation, then it's like, okay, you're cool with that.
You're okay with being
comfortable,
addressed by name. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. It also took out the any opportunity for like trolley follow names, which was great.
Yeah.
That was an unintended side effect, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So like I pee my pants doesn't get called out.
Yeah.
You know? Or like
I've had follower names that would spoil the end of games. Like
really?
Last of Us 2 specifically, there were a number of followers whose names were just a short phrase of how the game ends.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I never thought that would be possible until that game. And I remember specifically reading, this is before I went anonymous follows myself. So it was just up on screen, like saying the main character's name and what they do and what happens to them. And I'm just like, wow.
Huh.
It's like that really happened. But wow.
You know, on the topic of trolls, I feel like I have adopted a very I have a very sympathetic approach to trolls.
Oh, yeah?
Well, so the people, think about it. You're sitting at home. You know, I don't care how old you are. You could be 13, you could be 30. If your process is to create a screen name and to shout something or say something radical or extreme or troll somebody on the internet, a random stranger you've never met, in a group with people that you've never met.
Yeah.
That is such a dramatic call out for attention that it makes me really sad when I think about it, because that person does not understand. Someone has either messed up that person's ability to have a meaningful conversation or to find somewhere else to, you know, share something that they feel like this is the only way they're going to get that attention.
Right.
And that is really sad when you think about it. Right?
Yeah, it is.
Now some people are going to do it to just create chaos, but like you know, and obviously my mods will filter that out and do it, but oftentimes I'll talk about like, you know, I just feel bad. Like I hope that you find some peace, you know, because I've had a troll who I sort of flipped to not be a troll. Yeah. They straight up told me they came into my channel to troll.
Of course.
And I kind of talked with them, and then they ended up sending me a DM after stream, and I had a couple DMs back and forth with them about, you know, how I run things here and what it means. And like, they were like, well, I'm glad I didn't, like, they literally kind of called it out that they were trying to troll, and then they were not. So you can't do that to everybody. It's not always going to work. But, you know, sometimes someone comes in and just writes something and you're like, okay, well, they're going to disappear. But if they're still listening, I want them to know that I hope they find some peace and they can find some, I don't know. Because if I just say, you know, F that person or screw this person, they're the worst, they're scum, I'm not helping.
You're not making the situation any better.
I'm not making it better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to necessarily deter them from, you know, doing it again.
Right.
That was what they wanted. They wanted me to do that. They
wanted that attention.
They're angry. Yeah. They're frustrated.
Yeah.
I did a cosplay one time of a female streamer that is a friend of mine. So I dressed up in a wig and my wife did my makeup, and you know, I didn't shave my beard or anything. It was pretty awful. But I tried, and everybody thought it was fun. Yeah. And this was several years ago, but I had a guy come in and he said, who had been in another stream before, and he said, how do you expect your future children to respect you when you look like that?
Wow.
And it was a trolling. It was like trolling, but like legitimately they thought that, right?
Right.
And I expressed on stream that I would gladly have my child see this because I feel confident with who I am, and it does not matter if I'm wearing makeup or not.
Yeah.
Right. Does not matter what I look like. And that person kind of like sat back. And I ended up having another conversation with them off stream regarding it. And they said, well, it seems like maybe I just don't belong in your community. I said, I mean, that's up to you. Yeah. Here's how I feel. Here's what that means. And here's why it's important for others. And I just tried to share some perspective. Because what I could have done in that moment is just said, you're banned, get out, whatever. Sure. Right. But if I do that, they're going to go into another stream and they're going to
do the same
be
thing.
Angry now. Yeah. And maybe they're going to make someone else's day bad.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I don't know if I helped, but it's sort of like I felt that obligation to at least try, right? Reach out to say, yeah. Hey, we view things differently and that's okay. It's good to have conversations about things, but here's why that did not work for me. And I would hope that you would, and it's just like me hoping that the next time they go into a stream and they want to say something, they maybe think about it first, or they have created a different perspective. And maybe they go, I'm glad, that Jim was not just like a jerk about it.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate that. I think that's awesome. I think that's really great for you to like want to improve the overall situation of said person who maybe came in and for whatever reason.
Yeah. And sometimes you just don't have the energy like that. That's also real, right? Like sometimes you don't have the time or the energy or the capacity to make that effort.
Yeah.
But in that moment I did, and I felt like it was important.
Yeah.
So I did, right? And I think those types of efforts on part to just pass humanity, when we're so quick to just say, you're scum, you suck, you're this, right? We do that so much in our internet culture.
Yeah.
And you're bad at this, you're ugly, you're stupid, you're whatever. And we, if we do more of this, let's have conversations and let's talk about things and let's be open and let's understand where someone is, having empathy. Like one of my first Discord rules is that we are operating in a text-based communication system, right? You're sending a message via text. Sometimes text can get misconstrued.
Yeah.
I always say, like, always clarify and communicate rather than assume. Because someone might type something and you go, that person's kind of a jerk. And it's like, maybe they didn't mean it the way they wrote it. Or maybe there was an inflection you didn't pick up on because it's all text-based.
Right.
And no matter how many emotes we have, no matter how many, all that stuff, like sometimes people still...
You can't read intent all the time from text. You don't know what they mean.
It is always worth clarifying. And if that person did mean that, okay, well, then you at least know.
Yeah.
Right. But clarify and do all that because, man, sometimes you get involved in the middle of something. You're like, hey, guys, no one is communicating here. Yeah. Like everyone is just mad and assuming and upset about something that you don't even really know what it is yet. So let's all communicate. We just need a lot more of that. And I think that's pretty,
I appreciate that.
And so yeah, I like to take those opportunities when I can.
Yeah.
Because I also need to instill that in my daughter. Like, I don't want her to just assume people are bad because of this, like, I want her to learn as much about everything and every person so that she has, as open of a heart as possible.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. Now I'm getting a little too deep into
no.
world humanity.
This is good perspective.
But,
I think this is great perspective because I think sometimes on the internet we forget how to be around people because it's so easy to be behind your screen and not realize, like I said earlier, there's a whole nother person that you're interacting with. Is that it? Would you interact the same way if that human was in the same room with you? Right. Like,
right.
Probably not.
Right. Right.
So no, I think this is great perspective, man. I really appreciate your view of this, and it's very clear you've spent a lot of time and energy processing it. I mean, been doing this for years, so you've had a lot of time and experience with this. Yeah, man. Thank you for this. We could do this. We could keep going, I'm sure, but I don't want to take up an incredible amount more of your time. So we'll wrap up here soon. But I guess one of my last questions to you would be, what's next? What's next for Jim? What are you building towards?
Yeah. So I've, the big thing sort of on my plate right now is I'm just really enjoying the Lego YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That's been so much fun. It's just been a wonderful hobby, and it's been a wonderful way to engage with that hobby. And I've been really like focusing on trying to grow that more, and not having, Twitch try to be everything. Like I felt like so much of my time here on the internet is all digital, and having Lego has been so wonderful because it's tactile. I can touch it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You build with it. And that has been enjoyable, and being able to make something completely different than what I normally stream has also been very refreshing. So, so I've been doing that, and man, what's next? Whew. My daughter's a year and a half old, and she is the center of my life. And man, it's just it's been amazing watching her grow. And so I feel like I've sort of I'm starting to move into a piece with where I'm at as a live streamer, and I'm just trying to continue to, obviously I want it to grow and build and all that kind of stuff, but I'm at a point right now in life where I can't push that as much. I need to now foster what I have grown over the last period of time. And there will be a time for growth and change at some point. But it's not right now. It's fostering and being grateful for what the community I have and just enjoying it together. Like when I'm there for the 3 days a week that I get to be live, we're there and we're enjoying it. We're having fun. And engaging as much as possible. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
It's awesome. That's great.
I'm trying to zen out a little bit instead of trying to do everything, because my days are already packed, and it's like, you only have so much.
Yeah.
So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Where can everyone find you?
I am a live streamer on Twitch. You can find me there. You can find me at Triple J Bricks on YouTube. You can find me at the Lego store, definitely. No. Yeah. Those are my two kind of main channels. I mean, I'm on Twitter, JJamJim 3 on Twitter. But yeah, if you're into Lego and that's something that you enjoy and the hobby, especially if you're like sorting and organization, some mock building. We're going to be getting into more mock building and stuff.
Exciting. Yeah.
That's
cool.
Yeah. Videos every Monday over there. I'm trying to get out more than one a week, but
nice.
Yeah,
man, I can't wait. I can't wait to see all the things you're getting into. I've discovered you through the Lego content on Twitch, but your community has been amazing. It's been a great chat with you. I just thank you so much for spending the time with me and sharing your perspective on everything that we've been doing. Man, it's been great. It was a
pleasure. It was great talking to you. I could literally talk about this for hours and hours and hours. I think my voice might give out before then, but I just enjoy it. It's fun to jam on stuff like this. I always feel energized after conversations like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you talk with people who understand what it is,
Yeah.
It's so helpful. And I think creators need to do more talking to each other about stuff like this, because it only creates more inspiration and gives people more insight.
Absolutely. I agree. That's why I do this. That's why I do this show.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to do it. So yeah, thank you, Jim. I have a favor to ask of you. Generally, it's tradition on the stream to ask the guest to close it out with any final words, thoughts, advice, whatever it might be. It could be whatever you want. But in these final moments of the episode, the floor is yours, and you can say whatever you would like to say to those that are listening or watching.
Should we call out all the lurkers?
Yeah, we should read every lurker's name.
If you could send me the viewer list,
yeah, I'll pop it.
Then we can let's just get it done.
I'll pop it out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, share it with me. If you got any whispers, let me know. I can shout them out. Right?
Yeah,
people like shout outs. No. No. All jokes aside, I honestly just share. This sounds so corny. I find empathy and listen to what other people have to say, and just share. Just find time to share more love and understanding in your day, for those that you interact with, because it will be fruitful for both you and them. And who knows where that stuff kind of blossoms, where those ripples spread, because it is really, really important. And yeah, that's what I think.